I'm Art Fennell. You know, some time ago, we did a show on the improving housing market, a clear indicator that things are on the upswing and that the consumer confidence is beginning to improve. It is perhaps another sign, to quote Bob Dylan, that the times, they are a-changing. The economy is improving, right? Not only that, the experts also tell us that things are on pace to be even stronger in the growth market than expected. The question is, and this is the important question, how are you doing? That's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about weighing your financial health. Are you breathing easier these days, or are you still on life support financially? We'll explore some options to improve your money flow and give you some good advice on some things that you may be able to do along the way. Check this out. According to the Commerce Department, they released their latest findings, which show that consumer spending went up 0.2% in March, 0.2%. This after an increase of a 0.7% increase in February. Now, you may be saying, that's not much. I know, but it is something. We're going to talk about that. Joining me are three people with a clear understanding for how to improve your financial health. Let me introduce them to you. Ted Reed is here. Ted is Senior Vice President and Wealth Advisor for Morgan Stanley. He manages a diverse range of client financial portfolios, including individual, institutional, pensions, and profit-sharing accounts. We'll hear from Ted. Also here is Joe Yocavitch, president of the JML Financial Group. Joe is a financial advisor for Park Avenue Securities, and he, along with Traci Kelly, who is here with us as well, they host a show called Mainstreet Money, which airs Saturdays on the radio, 92.1 FM on WVLT. And Traci is Vice President of Sales and Marketing for JML Financial Group as well. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate your input. And I'm sure a lot of people are very interested in what you're going to have to say. Joe, let me start with you. We just said that the economy is improving and that people are getting confident about spending again. Is that what you're seeing with your clients?
You know, we see that, yes, right now it is, because the market did pretty well since the beginning of the year. All indicators in the indexes, from the S&P, from the Dow Jones, from the NASDAQ, are up over 10% since the beginning of the year. So the confidence is starting to build with people going back in the market, but still we have a lot of people still sitting on the sideline because of the uncertainty and being somewhat afraid of what government is going to dictate going forward.
Well, that uncertainty is real. I mean, you can't blame people for that. And Traci, you guys do this show, Mainstreet Money. Is that part of what you talk about on how to get people from being less uncertain and more certain about their spending?
Absolutely. I mean, we really focus on what's going on with Mainstreet USA. Forget the corporations in Wall Street. Let's talk about how this is affecting you, because people are hurting and they are uncertain. And what we find is, because that uncertainty, they're driven to fear, which drives them to decisional paralysis, we call it. So they don't know what to do, so they do nothing. You know, we laugh that they say they tuck it in the mattress, the money. That's not good either.
Well, you know, again, I can just hear the average person out there saying, you know, the way that the market has been, the way the economy has been, tucking it in the mattress may have been the wise thing to do. Ted, you deal with we mentioned a diverse group of people in your portfolio, including a lot of high-end clients, athletes and entertainers and the like and so forth, and they got more money than most people can count. You deal with that, but in terms of the average Joe, is there ever a bridge that links those two together?
You know, actually there is. I mean, people tend to look at athletes and entertainers as people that make a whole lot of money. But I actually went back years ago and did a study, and I looked at your typical first-round draft pick coming out at the age of, let's say, 19 or 20 years old, looking at how much money they would make the first 5 years, and then look at it over their lifetime from the time they reach the age of 65. Mm-hmm. If I was a college graduate who comes out and I start making $42,000 a year and I get a cost of living adjustment at 4% every year, over their lifetime they've made the same amount of money. And that's the thing that people don't realize. The difference is that athlete or entertainer has made it in a very short period, let's say 3.6 years for football, for example.
Well, that takes me to my first point, and this, I don't mean to pick on athletes. It's just that they're so high profile. We know their stories better than most, perhaps more than we hear about regular people. But we all make classic mistakes with our money. Okay, rookie mistakes, for example. They have all that money, and then a couple of years it's all gone. But does it all come down to spending? I mean, do we just spend poorly as consumers? Who wants to talk about
We
that?
don't, as a culture, we've been spending and outspending ourselves. We make $1, we spend $1.10. We need to be kind of reshifting that thought process and go into more of a saving mode. And I'm not talking about a lot, but I'm talking about somewhat. And our rule of thumb for our clientele is try to get them to at least save 15% of their gross income. I mean, that's our target. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but that's our target, our goal for most of our clients, because after you factor in inflation, taxes, planned obsolescence, and all the things that are happening, you know, it's something that we believe
well,
in.
there are usually some tried and true measures where people tend to want to park their money. You know, if they've got some extra money to park, there's the real estate market. You know, people say, oh, it's a good time to buy a home. You can't be upset with them for that, but I want you to get your opinions on that. There's the stock market, there are money markets, there's retail. People think maybe I want to go into retail, invest in something of that nature. When you're counseling clients, you wouldn't turn them away from it. Isn't that sound thinking and reasoning, or is there some other things we should be thinking about?
I think the key that you want to talk about is diversification. When I hear people talk about putting money into real estate or into gold or any of these particular areas, they tend to focus as if that's the only asset class, as opposed to they should be invested in several different asset classes.
It really is. It's a personal decision for each person. You know, when I hear now's the perfect time to buy a home, if you are in the position to buy a home, if you want to stay in that home, what are you going to do with that home? It may not be the right choice for you. So we would want to talk to somebody about where they're headed and what their goals are before just saying this is the asset class for you.
Well, you just said something there. You want to talk to somebody, okay? Getting an advisor, a financial advisor, someone in your corner that can help you with all of this. A lot of people would be a little bit intimidated about that. One, they may say, you know, I don't have that much money that I need a financial advisor. I mean, come on. And two, it's going to cost me to hire a financial advisor. I can't afford it. What do you say to people who say that to you? Because that's what you guys do.
No, we explain to them fully. And you go back to the real estate market. I believe sometimes before you talk to a realtor, you talk to us, people like us, a trusted advisor that knows their cash flow, that knows their the debt ratio that they have. So it's people like us that basically see holistically what that person's going on and going forward for what their decisions will be. So that's a real emotion that we tie in with a lot of our clients, because we see emotion drives what they do a lot of times.
Yeah, everybody's got debt. You live long enough, you're going to have it. That's just the way that it is. It is a fact of life. We have debt for a variety of reasons, and mainly because, as we said earlier, you know, the spending is out of sorts with your saving. But how do you get out of debt? How do you recover from debt? Is it a matter of controlling your spending, and you can react to these, trying to pay down your bills, you know, and think about some things that go into that? Credit cards gets everybody in trouble.
Right.
Let's deal with that. Because people watching are going to say, yeah, I got all three of those issues.
Oh yeah.
First of all, I'm not a big fan of debt. I mean, debt in some cases, a mortgage, things like that, maybe a car payment. But credit card.
Who is, Ted? I don't think anybody's a fan of debt.
Well, people say they're not a fan of debt, but they'll go out and take out the credit card every opportunity that they get. And, you know, we live in a country that people are more impressed by symbols of wealth than actual wealth. You know, it's this impulse buying of every time I go to the store, I feel like I have to buy something. The reality is, number one, if you want to start paying down your debt, the first thing you should do is look at, okay, what credit cards have the highest interest rate? And gradually, and pay that down first. Try to transfer as much to the lowest interest rate cards that you possibly can. But you know, we were talking about the sports business before. I advise those guys, because you have such a short period of time to make this money, you don't want to have any debt at the end of your career.
Jump on this credit card bandwagon here, because like I said, everybody's got them. Some people got a whole pocket full of them, and it's killing them. You know, don't you tell them, look, you got to get rid of these things?
Well, one of the things Ted was saying is, try to pay them down as quickly as possible. But the average person only pays the interest on the credit card.
Right.
So it might.
They're never getting to the real debt.
It might take them 10 years before they pay a $10,000 outstanding debt down. So they need to really be prudent in terms of their debt, and that's something that we talk about to our clients. But paying those credit cards down and making sure you pick the right credit card, and if you can, and in some possibilities, you try to make it somewhat deductible if if necessary, if you're able to. So using the real estate would be one of those things, but more importantly, paying those credit card down and saving simultaneously is the ultimate goal for our clientele.
There are other forms of debt too.
Correct.
Credit cards is probably the most common,
Right,
but
sure.
you talk about this right now, and that is a lot of people are dealing with. There's so many ways you can have debt, from your cars and your mortgage and everything else. Even college loans and college debt; those are big numbers we're talking about.
Right.
I was talking to a gentleman just the other day, and he said, "Yeah, we leveraged our 401k to pay for our daughter's college." And I see you guys shaking your head. You don't agree with that at all, do you?
The worst thing to do. The worst thing to do. I mean, if you need to remember some kind of slogan, it's you can borrow for college, you cannot borrow for retirement. And taking that out of a 401k not only is going to cost you in taxes, but in pre-distribution penalties. It's the last thing you want to do. You really need to figure out a plan with your child and understand what's feasible. It may not be feasible to go to a school that costs $50,000, $100,000 a year. You have to have a plan, but going into your retirement savings is usually not the best one.
Yeah.
So add to that, you think about it, when you borrow from a 401k, when you have to pay it back before you retire, you're paying it back again after tax. So if you think about it, when you withdraw that dollar, when you end up moving that money potentially to an IRA when you retire, you'll pay tax again on money that you borrowed. So it's almost double taxation when you borrow from a 401k. We're not big advocates.
Government loves it.
And the government loves it. Absolutely. The government
Yeah.
absolutely loves that.
Yeah,
So-
I want to go back to something you said, Ted, a little bit earlier, and I don't know how you phrased it, but it was clever. But the reality of it is that we want a lot of stuff, so we go shopping. I sure would like to have that. I know you had a nice little phrase with that. But how do you tell people that, look, you really got to manage this? You don't need the new Lexus that's coming out. Okay, your car is a little bit older, but it's running fine, right? Don't worry about the appearance of this, and unless you're a dire straits case. How do you have that conversation with them? And you can all jump in here.
That's a tough one. I find that that's probably as difficult as telling someone they have to go on a diet. Going on to some type of a budget is really hard for people because we all want to keep up with the Joneses.
Right. Yeah, the difference is you're going on a diet. That means that because you're fat, you're eating too much, or whatever the case may be. Going on a spending savings plan means that you're probably broke.
In debt.
You got nothing.
They're both equally bad.
Which is going to help with that diet if you can't afford food.
That's true.
Sure. But sometimes it's you're not, in not all cases, but sometimes you're broke because you've been overspending. And the reality is, like you said, you don't need that car. That extra car. You don't need to put. In some cases, I've seen folks at my market that want to put rims on the car. That want to take care of friends and family and a bunch of other things. You have to decide, what are your needs. What are your important costs? What are your needs? What do you have to pay for home, for food, for all the other necessary expenses that you have?
That's a standard budget.
Right, that's your standard budget.
Are they not doing budgets anymore?
The B word, nobody wants to talk about
Right,
that.
Nobody wants to talk about the B word.
B word. No. It's hard when you talk about rims. Even my clients want to put rims on their car. They don't make the money that some of his clients might have. So we have those kind of discussions, and it's hard when you're talking to somebody that they're making $1, spending $1.10, and you're trying to convince them this is not the road to success or retirement, because you're going to run out of money, or you're not going to make it through retirement. That's the biggest concern of ours.
I didn't mean to cut them off. It's not just athletes or entertainers. I mean, it's across the board. It's across the board. It's every age. It's every demographic you can imagine.
Well, that's the perfect segue for what do you do? How do you control this? How do you get your house in order? How do you get back in line to come out of debt and provide better financial wealth for your situation? We're going to talk about that, and we've got some tips we're going to share. I want you guys to just hang on right there, and when we come back, we're going to go over a couple of important tips that they put together that will help you have more money in your pocket. How are you doing financially right now? This is Art Fennell Reports. We'll be back with more right after this.